Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Where Work Meets Life. I'm Dr. Laura, and I'm really enthused today to bring you Jana Boyko, an entrepreneur, business coach, and author of the Bedside Business Plan, which I have in front of me here, a beautiful journal that we're going to tell you about, and Employee to Entrepreneur, which she'll tell you launches in September of this year. And around the time this episode comes out, you'll be able to get your hands on that book. And we're talking today about from employee to entrepreneur, listening to your inner voice. So being a serial entrepreneur myself, I love the topic of entrepreneurship. I totally resonate and get entrepreneurs. And my niece, Shauna Sinclair, is also an entrepreneur, and she's actually doing a BCom through Royal Roads. And she met Jana. Jana was a guest speaker at her university, and she said, "Auntie, you must meet Jana." So I had a great conversation, and we definitely jived. As she's an entrepreneur like I am, she's a business coach. She wants to help people make a difference in people's lives, and her guided journal has helped 10,000 entrepreneurs across North America. That is a lot of entrepreneurs. And when you imagine all the things they're doing for the world, that is very powerful. So Jana teaches people how to approach business in a way that's mindful and strategic. So coming from a place of mind and our inner voice, but also being strategic because the business itself needs to fly. So without further ado, welcome, Jana.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you today, Laura. And I feel like you and I are so similar in that we love entrepreneurship. I often tell people that I live and breathe this space. So it's always fun to dive in with someone who loves it as much as well.
Absolutely. And I loved when I started using the term serial entrepreneur for myself because most people could never follow how many brands I had. They got confused between she's a career counselor. No, she's an author. No, she's a professor. No, she's a consultant. It's like, who is she? And it's like, well, I like doing a lot of different things, and I like creating businesses and ideas.
Yeah, and I think we're so dynamic as human beings. We don't just have, even recreationally, we don't just have one hobby or one interest. We like a lot of things. And so I think it's cool to bring that into entrepreneurship as well.
Absolutely. So, Jana, tell us a bit more of yourself. What led you to your passion around focusing on entrepreneurs in particular?
Yeah, so it's been a really interesting journey, and today I'm a business coach, I'm an author, I talk about all things entrepreneurship. But really, entrepreneurship started for me when I was very young. So I was like that kid in our cul-de-sac that was selling cookies at our family garage sales and selling little handmade cards that I made. And even at one point, I think I was in junior high, so grade 7, I had a magazine subscription business. So I would sell magazines to all of our neighbors. So it really feels like it was sort of in my DNA from a very young age. I then went to business school and actually did my BCom as well as a BA in psychology because I always love that intersection of business and the human condition. And then I graduated from university. And what was interesting is that I always had a gut feeling that I was going to be an entrepreneur, but I thought that it would officially happen later on in my life. So when I graduated, I had, done my BCom, I had studied marketing, and I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do, but I sort of felt like I should go into the workforce to kind of, cut my teeth in that space to begin. So I remember back in university, I took a marketing strategy course, and I found that really interesting. And so there was an agency actually in Calgary that had a new graduate position for marketing strategists. So I applied to one job and one job only when I was graduating, because that was really the only thing that I found really intriguing in the space of marketing at the time. And I said, well, if I don't get this job, I'm going to just become an entrepreneur and I'll figure it out kind of like I always have. But long story short, I got the job in advertising. I went on to work in advertising for a couple of years. Bit of a story there as well, which we can get into more detail on, but left that job in 2018. And then I have been working for myself ever since. And honestly, there's nothing I'd rather be doing at this point in my life.
So 7 years on your entrepreneurial journey post leaving the traditional workforce.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're lucky seven.
Yeah. Celebrated 7 years in April. Yeah. Lucky number seven. Yeah.
It's awesome. And I love your story, how you listened to your inner calling that brought you to move to Victoria, to live on the beautiful island and change your lifestyle and adapt your life. Well, adapt your work to your life, not vice versa. Most of us will adapt our lives around a job. You did it in reverse. Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. I remember, so 3 years ago, I went to visit Vancouver Island for the first time, had a gut feeling I was meant to move there, followed that gut feeling, and now I've been living there for 2 years with my amazing partner, David. But it's funny because the same thing happened when I was working in corporate. Like, I just started to get this sense 2 years into my job that I wasn't really meant to be there anymore. And part of it was that, being in the world of advertising and working in an agency, world with top brands and big businesses, it was really hard on my nervous system. Like, I found that I was driving to work every day, feeling really nervous, feeling really activated, really overwhelmed. And then on top of that, I just recognized that what I was fundamentally doing in marketing was predominantly selling people more of what they never really needed in the first place. So over time, it began to feel misaligned. And I was only like 25 at the time, but I was feeling burnt out. I was feeling like things were misaligned. And I remember one day actually really having this sense that I couldn't hear myself anymore. And that was actually the exact thoughts that entered my mind. I can't hear myself anymore. I'm so stressed. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so misaligned. And that's when the idea for entrepreneurship really started to present itself. And I started to get really curious and say, well, what if I didn't have to wait until I had like 10 years of corporate experience to become an entrepreneur? And again, that's never really what I wanted. Like, I didn't want to be in the corporate world forever, but I kind of felt like I had to, right? Like, I had to do all this stuff before I could become an entrepreneur. So I really started to give myself permission to think about something new and, to use entrepreneurship not only as like a new, way to work and make money, but as a way for me to actually come home to myself again and to reconnect with who I am and what I wanted and how I wanted to show up in the world.
Beautiful. What a story. And I understand you had a failure in entrepreneurship. And I think we learn the most through our difficult experiences, our failure experiences. And you had this along your journey that allowed you to better help entrepreneurs or led you to help entrepreneurs. Tell us more about that, Jana.
Yeah, so this is such an interesting story. About 6 months before I left the world of corporate, I started a business with a business partner, and we were going to create a new type of agency model, only working with brands and people that wanted to do good in the world. So we started building this business. I left my full time career, and we worked together for about 6 months. And then 6 months into my entrepreneurial journey, the business partnership went south. We had been working for a client at the time for like 6 months who never actually paid us for the work that we had done. And at the time, that was so devastating because, like, when I left my job, I was so full of like optimism. Like, I remember walking down the stairs of my corporate office, repeating the words, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, over and over again in my mind. And I was almost like, I don't do drugs, but like, I almost felt high and like euphoric that I was doing this. And I just really thought that, my journey into entrepreneurship and my experience would be foolproof because I was coming into entrepreneurship, having this background in business, understanding marketing, loving entrepreneurship since I was a kid. And I didn't really think anything could go wrong. But when these things fell apart, what I very quickly learned was that the reason they fell apart was not because of business. It was actually because I didn't have my own back in that experience. I was saying yes to things when I should have said no. I let these clients not pay us for many months when I should have said, I'm not, I'm not going to continue working if we're not receiving payment. So I didn't really have boundaries in that context, and I allowed myself to be compromised. And that really led to this moment where I remember I was sitting on a yoga mat in my home, in total tears, devastated, not sure what I was going to do next because I had left this lucrative career. I had started this business partnership with this partner that I thought was going to work out and didn't. And of course, then I'm looking at my bank account, and things are dwindling. And so, what was really interesting about that time was, as devastating as it was, it actually gave me an opportunity to rebuild myself from the ground up, to get to know myself, to get to know what I really wanted out of life and work. And that was when I had this light bulb moment go off where I was like, if I struggled this much in my journey to entrepreneurship and I had all the business, stuff figured out, how are other women doing this, right? And what if, and because after that business partnership failed, I had this fire burning in me too, where I was like, I don't want this to happen to anyone else, right? And so from there, I really thought to myself, like, what if I could help more women do that transition from employee to entrepreneur and start businesses and be really strategic about it, but also do that personal development and that inner work to really be able to honor our inner voices, our needs, our desires, and to not self abandon, right, in pursuit of success or even just in pursuit of that thing we love.
I love it. So to be specific, is the bedside business plan, which we'll talk about next, is that geared more towards women or everyone?
It's a good question. So, Bedside Business Plan is really for everyone. The first product we came out with, I really wanted it to be like a universal tool for entrepreneurship. So, for anyone who has a business idea but doesn't know where to start, that's the problem that Bedside Business Plan really solves. But it came out of a lot of my work with women where I'd get on the phone with new clients and they'd say to me 9 times out of 10, like, I want to start a business and I so desperately want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't know where to start. All the resources out there are really intimidating, really overwhelming. I feel paralyzed. And so I created Bedside Business Plan to truly be the first step on someone's entrepreneurial journey and to help them go from having an idea to then having a plan to bring it into reality. But the cool thing as well is that inside Bedside Business Plan, the first two sections are actually all about you and making yourself part of your plan. So, who you are, what's your vision for your future, what's the vision for success, what are your values, what do you need? So, it's definitely a more human take on entrepreneurship, as I experienced in my own journey. Like, you can't give yourself away for success.
I love it. And I love that it's for everyone. I think that's really important. And I think pen to paper is something that's going by the wayside in a lot of cases. I know my psychology practice, we moved to paperless, and I really sometimes miss my paper when I'm with clients because so now I have a whiteboard, but I like drawing things. I like pen to paper or felt to whiteboard and the bedside business plan, I'm going to just show it for those of you on YouTube. So it's a beautiful cover. It's dark blue and it's a nice fabric and it's a really nice paper quality. I just like it's very soothing. It has a soothing vibe to it. But it's all of these questions about your story and your vision and your values, like you said, and taking the time to celebrate how far you've come. And so I just think it's a really good, you could do a couple of pages every day, right? You could do it in the morning or at night or anytime you want, but you can just do it in little bite-sized chunks. And tell us more, is that how you recommended this to go for people?
Yeah, I recommend answering a few questions a night and then you'll have your full plan within a month. But it was really my intention with the whole journal to like change the way that people start businesses so that it didn't have to be this like intimidating, 50-page Word document that you open up that you don't understand, right? Like those business plan templates can be really overwhelming. And instead, it's like this comforting, warm, cozy journaling experience that asks you, the questions you need to figure out about your business, gives you examples. And then, like you said, you have that really tactile experience putting pen to paper, especially if you're like in bed at night or just in the morning when you wake up and all those ideas are fresh. It's like I really wanted to capture, the juice of that moment for people and give them a place where they could actually put those dreams so that they're not just like floating around in their minds or on some like napkin somewhere or in the notes app on their phone. And, you could really make something from those ideas.
So when did it first come out into the market?
Yeah, so Bedside Business Plan came out just over 3 years ago now, and we launched with Indigo about 2.5 years ago across Canada, which
So I can find it in Indigo stores in the business section?
what's interesting, we're actually in the guided journal section.
Okay, where I buy the journals.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. That's good for people to know. Is it also sold in the USA?
It is, and it's on Amazon.com. We have some retail partnerships that we can't share about yet that we're working on, but yeah, very exciting times. But Amazon for now.
And who's we? So you have a partner in this project?
I do. So I'm partnered with my brother Brad, who is like the most incredible human ever because we're very similar as siblings. Like I always joke, he's 3 years younger than me, so he's my little brother, but he's like so much taller and towers over me. But he's amazing because again, we're very similar people, very similar dispositions. But where I'm more on the like product development, marketing, branding, speaker side of things, he comes in and supports with our supply chain, our finances, our logistics, and he's just a magician in that space. So it's really cool to get to work with him and to work with someone who you're so connected with and trust so much, but they also bring this other half of the business that you don't necessarily want to deal with or don't have skills in. Like I know not much. Well, I now know more about supply chain given I'm in the book industry and in the space, but he comes with such a rich background in that domain. So it's pretty amazing.
Terrific. And it doesn't always work out with partners. We know that you've experienced it and in families too. There can be complexities with family business, but good for you to be able to do that together and make it so successful.
Yeah, and what I often say to people too in terms of business partnerships, like it's so tempting and so exciting to just dive in headfirst with someone, but I always say to people, date your business partner before you marry them. So try working on one project together first. Take on one client together, do one event together, really see how that goes and see this person at their best and see them at their worst and take some time to decide whether you actually want to do this. Don't just run into it, which I know is so tempting.
Exactly. That's very good advice. Date before you actually marry a business partner. Not that you marry them, but they're your work partner. They're your work husband or work wife. That's what they can end up feeling like. That's for sure. So, how has the Bedside Business Plan impacted people? And are there any success stories you're really proud of where it started off with the journal and it's led to something a few years later that's starting to thrive?
Yeah, so it's pretty amazing. I did a book signing at the Indigo location in Victoria probably about a month ago now. And this woman comes up to me and she's like, I bought Bedside Business Plan like 2 years ago when you guys first came out with it. And she's like, do you want to hear like where I'm at today with my business? And I was like, yes, of course I want to hear. Like tears already starting to stream down my eyes because it's so crazy to put something out into the world and then to have people come back to you saying, look, this product changed my life in this way. So it was really cool because she went from being an employee to now being like a commercial photographer who works all over the world. And she was sharing like her photography portfolio with me. And like, these are some of the most beautiful images I've ever seen. And like my brother's a photographer. Like I come from a family where there's a lot of like creativity and like aesthetics are really important and things like that. But to see her work and like what it's become and her website and how she supports herself today, it was just so moving on a very deep level, especially again, coming from a history of mine where it's like, I had the business not work out. I had my own challenges initially. And so to have moved through them and to now see that my process is helping other people, get their stuff off the ground. Like it's like a gift I've given to the world that honestly gives so much back to me. And I think that that's the beauty really of entrepreneurship.
The gift that keeps giving. That is amazing. And yeah, it's more than a book, it's a journal that captures our inner voice. So, the title of this episode is about listening to your inner voice. And how do you think journaling helps people listen to their inner voice?
I think that something really magical happens when we put pen to paper. So, even for example, like with our new journal that we're launching, Employee to Entrepreneur, for the longest time when I first started writing it, I had open like a Word document, and that's how I was creating the journal. And then my boyfriend David said to me one day, he's like, have you tried writing by hand and just like seeing what comes out? And it was amazing to me once I just had the paper in front of me, how all of the content flowed so much more seamlessly. And there wasn't that barrier of like keyboard and screen, like kind of distracting me in a way. So I often find that some of my most clear and honest thoughts come through when I'm journaling and there's nothing else to attend to. So yeah, I think it can be a real clarifying tool. It can be very connecting, right? Where it's actually more tactile and you're connecting with what's coming onto the page. So I'm a huge fan of going old school and going back to journaling.
Beautiful. That is awesome. So let's turn attention to your new book, Employee to Entrepreneur. Tell us about that, why you wrote it, and when it's coming out.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So employee to entrepreneur is really interesting because Bedside Business Plan was very much my first book baby, as I like to say. But employee to entrepreneur is like really the culmination of all of the deeper work that I've done with women over the past 7 years. So I like to say that employee to entrepreneur is not about building a business. It's actually about you and your personal journey to entrepreneurship. So some of the sections inside include like getting clear on your desires, building up your new identity, moving through fear, getting clear on your needs, and then mapping like your personal journey from where you are today to where you want to be. And really, the reason I created this journal was because in working with so many women over time, and again, from my own experiences, I learned that what stops people from succeeding in business isn't often the lack of business skills. It's the self doubt. It's the who am I to do this? It's the fear of judgment. It's the fear of failure. And so when we can work through these things, we can actually come out the other side, able to do what we love and take action on it as opposed to feeling stuck within our own stuff. And something else actually that I'll share that I found really interesting. So we've obviously been in the book space for quite a while with Bedside Business Plan. And even though we're in the guided journal section in Indigo, I'll often be, looking around the business section, seeing what else is coming about. And it really clicked for me a while ago that there's all these books on entrepreneurship that focus completely on the business building, but none focus on actually building an entrepreneur, right? Actually, that personal journey that you have to go on in order to realize your dreams. So it's really cool to now have employee to entrepreneur that very much fills that gap for people and is a lot more personal than what you see out there today.
So is employee for entrepreneur primarily for women, Jana?
It's a great question. Again, I would say it's really for everyone, but it definitely takes a more personal approach to entrepreneurship. So, came out of the work that I've done with women for the past 7 years, but it's certainly applicable to anyone who wants to become an entrepreneur, but feels like they're in their own way or feels like they're not really living into their potential.
So it's a book or is it a journal format again?
It's again a journal format. Yeah. Because, yeah, I found that to just be the most powerful in terms of people, not only having a book that they read or text that they read, but actually having something that they can interact with and put pen to paper on. So, another guided journal.
Beautiful. And that journey from employee to entrepreneur, that can be a tricky one. And so one of the things I do is I founded Canada Career Counseling, and we have a lot of clients that come through that want to pivot their careers, or they're unsure, uncertain, maybe they're unfulfilled or confused about where they're at in their journey. And a certain percent of them are considering entrepreneurship. And we definitely see that a lot of it is fear about how am I going to earn a living? How am I going to ride the waves of an insecure and unsure income stream? So I really see that there's certain traits, definitely certain traits, certain values, certain characteristics that make someone more or less a fit for entrepreneurship. So I'd like to hear that in your words. What do you feel are the key ingredients of someone who can and does make that plunge successfully?
I think first and foremost, you have to understand what you want and you have to understand what you need. So, what is going to make this journey sustainable for you, knowing that income may be up and down initially, and also knowing that you may have to, dip down in terms of your income to have things go up in the future. So, I think that's really important to consider first and foremost. The other thing I want to mention here is I think so often we believe that you have to have certain personality traits to be a successful entrepreneur. So you have to be aggressive, you have to be sales focused, you have to be a people person, you got to be, really out there pounding the pavement every day. But what I often say to people is that it's not so much personality traits, it's actually having a deeper level of persistence and determination. And if you have that and you're willing to continue to stick through it, that's when you find success. And certainly, of course, developing certain traits helps. Like it does help to be someone who wants to connect with customers and partners. And to a certain degree, you do have to want to work with other people. But I think that there are a lot of people who are more introverted who run very successful businesses behind the scenes because they're doing it in a way that feels true to them, as opposed to feeling like they have to become some other person in order to succeed.
No, I agree with you. I think some of it depends on the type of business we're talking about. And I always think there's different hats we wear. And I always like to think of a series of different color hats, right? So maybe my red hat is my HR manager hat, which I've had to do over the years a lot, hiring, letting go of people, training, etc., mentoring. So the HR hat, and then there's the finance and accounting hat, and then there's the strategic planning hat, and then there's the, whatever other hats, the tech, the IT hat. And what I've learned is I'm not good at all those hats. I can put each one of them on, but some of them don't fit so well.
I like your analogy.
Thank you. Yeah. Some of them don't fit so well. But then I've hired people around me, and it kind of reminds me of you joining forces with your brother who's good at some of the things that you are not, and vice versa. And you complement each other's strengths. So I think it's about looking at what you're good at and where the holes can be plugged by other team members or vendors or people you hire. Would you agree with that concept?
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's like businesses aren't built in isolation. They're built with people and support surrounding them. And I think so often when people start businesses, they really believe they have to do it all alone. But there are lots of ways to bring on support when you're early in your journey. You can trade services with people, right? You can develop some kind of exchange with them that works for you both. There's lots of ways to get creative in terms of how you get support. And so I think even in the beginning, when you're initially kind of plugging away at things, remembering that you can always reach out to people. You can either reach out to people who are already successfully doing what it is that you want to do, asking them for a coffee, asking if they'd be willing to share, their wisdom. And 9 times out of 10, people are, right? People want to help other people who are just getting started on that same journey that they went on. So I think that's something that's really important to remember.
Absolutely. And when I think of traits that I think have helped me through all of my ups and downs and tough times and great times and whatever else, because it's been about 16 years of it. I would say resilience. So getting up when you fall down. So getting up and dusting yourself off, having a good cry, and then moving forward.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If you're willing to keep showing up and, if you're willing to keep showing up, dusting yourself off, continuing to face the business, and sometimes that means pivoting, right? Like sometimes something does actually need to change in terms of the structure of the business in order to move forward. But the more you show up, the more connected you are to your business and your customers and what you're doing, the more that you will find that path to success. And sometimes it presents itself over time, right? Sometimes you have to go out and try a few things and see what sticks and what works and be really attentive to how that is developing and evolving to really get it right.
And I really feel getting passive income streams into my business is something I want to focus on, because right now it feels everything is a hustle, and not everything is a hustle. I shouldn't say that, but everything requires action to be paid, either counseling, coaching, speaking. And I love all of those things, but it's very action oriented. There's nothing that's passive about it.
I hear you. No, it is pretty powerful to sort of take your domain of expertise and what you've been doing one on one or one to many in the case of speaking, and to turn it into something that can scale and where you can sell while you sleep and, reach even more people and have even more impact. So I hear you on that front.
That's what I'm thinking of. I think I'm a skilled trainer. I could definitely do e-learning related offerings. My book's coming out in January, all around toxic bosses. I think there's more to be done there, and that's been a very active income stream. Well, it hasn't been an income stream, but I'm hoping it'll become a passive income stream at some point. And it'll help a lot of people at the same time, because I'm like you. I want to make this tricky world a better place.
That's a good way of saying it. Tricky world, a better place. And there's so much opportunity to do that. Like, I feel like we've never lived in such a time where, there's so much that needs to be done and so much that we can do to support the world. And it's also easier than ever to set up a website, set up an Instagram account, start taking payments. Like, it's so right at our fingertips. So I think now is the time for a lot of people for sure.
But because it's easier, people can rush into it without laying the groundwork, right? And then, hey, wait a minute, why aren't I selling anything, right? Or why isn't anything happening here? Because I find that there's a lot of stuff out there, so you need to cut through the noise, and marketing is so important, which is why it's great you have that background.
And I also think too, what people underestimate is just how much domain you have to build up in order to have a successful business. So what I mean by that is like, your domain is what you're an expert in, right? It's the skills you've been cultivating for many years. It's the thing you're the most passionate about. It's the thing you could talk, ad nauseum about. And then from that domain, you build a business around that, right? Building a business around what you know best, as opposed to having like, I've seen this a lot where people have a very shallow domain in something. They kind of enter a space they don't really understand that well, or they don't have the fuel to really power that business. So I think that that's also very important too, to, you know, um, really develop yourself and your skill set to fuel whatever kind of offering you want to put out into the world.
Absolutely. Otherwise, you can end up doing more damage inadvertently, even though you don't mean to.
Well, definitely. And it's like I couldn't have created the guided journals I created today without working very intimately with women for 7 years and learning deeply about that process from employee to entrepreneur, how to build a business, and seeing what the real sticking points are and how to actually solve those for people.
Beautiful. I love that it comes from all that experience. So when you think of some of the women and anyone who's making the pivot from employee to entrepreneur, what can help people build the courage to do so?
Yeah. So, one of the exercises in the journal that I teach a lot of my own clients is to make a list of 20 reasons and evidence sorry, I should rephrase this. Make a list of 20 reasons why you are going to be a successful entrepreneur. Include your past, achievements, personality traits, things people love about you, great feedback you've gotten in the past, and then reference that list every single day. Because I think, especially when you're entering new territory as an entrepreneur, you feel so wobbly. I felt so wobbly when I became an entrepreneur, even though I had the business background. But it's really important to fortify yourself and to remember who you are in this experience and to remember everything that you are bringing to entrepreneurship, so that when self-doubt does come up, when the fear does come up, you can really have this list that sort of replaces that fear, right? And acknowledges who you are and what you're bringing to this space.
I love that. And I like you can flip back to that page in the journal.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will definitely do that myself because even someone like me who's been around for a while doing this, there's still some days that are tricky. There's days that I say, oh my gosh, I have to navigate another issue, another challenge, or why are we in this economy that my business is impacted? I mean, there's no doubt about it. And part of my business, helping organizations and helping develop leaders and healthy cultures and high performing teams, it's the first thing that's cut in a bad market or an uncertain market is anything to do with employee and leader development. And that's when it's actually needed more than ever, which is really frustrating. It's like selling this thing that people see as a nice to have and not a must to have.
Yeah, when it is essential as the foundation of a company.
Exactly. So then they cut all the spend in that, and then they wonder in the next cycle why they've lost good talent and why their engagement scores are low and why their productivity is low. And so it's just this cycle. I've ridden this cycle for my whole career.
And I really believe entrepreneurship is such an exercise in creativity. It's like when things shift or the industry shifts, how quickly can you reinvent or tweak, right? Or adjust to still have that impact and to reach the people you need to reach.
Exactly. So I love that. It's the ability to pivot, ability to be resilient, the ability to create new ideas. Because if you're not creating and you're stagnant, then you're at risk, right?
Well said. Exactly.
And I think there's something to putting out good content and helping people from the bottom of your heart and not having everything be a paid gig. So that's why I really feel giving back pro bono is an important part of what I do in the business. I don't know your thoughts on that, Jana.
I definitely agree. Like, I think even in our case, like we donate journals and copies of Bedside Business Plan to all kinds of youth organizations, youth entrepreneurial organizations where they're teaching entrepreneurship to young people, which we love to do. And so we're very clear on, our mandate and what we do in that space and how we give back. And yeah, I think it's important to have that element and also have that balance. Like I've seen for a lot of entrepreneurs when they first start out, they want to kind of give everything away and they want to help everyone. And sometimes they're not being paid enough. And so I think it's really important to, build a healthy, profitable business at the core that supports you and your team and your mission. And then to also have that aspect of what you do that is so generous and so giving, and allows more people to access your products and services.
Absolutely. It's a balance. Otherwise, if you don't have the income flow, it's not going to work. It's not going to flow.
Exactly. Yeah.
So tell us about the employee to entrepreneur. Are you having an official book launch date? How people can be alerted to that and where they'll be able to find it?
Yeah, so exciting news. We've actually pre-launched Employee to Entrepreneur today. It's just available on our website for now. And when anyone pre-orders the journal, they get access to a live masterclass that I'll be teaching in the fall. Journals won't ship until the fall, so it is just pre-order right now. But in the fall, will be available in retail across Canada. At Indigo. And then also we're working on another big partnership, which I can't say anything yet, even though I'd love to. But yeah, we've got some exciting things in the works. So that's Employee to Entrepreneur, and it's available on our website. Right now, we're still bedsidebusinessplan.com. We're hoping to actually rebrand later this year, but for now, that's where you can find both Bedside and Employee to Entrepreneur.
Awesome. So if I'm going to pre-order Employed Entrepreneur, which I think would be a good resource for us at Canada Career to be able to tell key clients about who are considering this employed entrepreneur journey. So if could I pre-order it on Amazon or should I go to your website?
Yeah, it's all through our website right now. Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll include the bedsidebusinessplan.com, you said?
Yeah, bedsidebusinessplan.com. And then we have a special landing page for the Employee to Entrepreneur Journal pre-launch.
Nice. So we'll include that in the show notes in our monthly e-newsletter, which is full of good resources like books like this, podcast episodes, blogs, lots of content. I'm always sharing loads of content to help people develop in their career and their work and their life, which brings me to two more questions. So one is, what does work-life wellness mean to you and how does it play out in your life, Jana?
That's a great question. I think for me, work life wellness really looks like honoring myself first and doing the things that I need to do to take care of myself. Interestingly, I feel like I was really good at this for like the first 5, 6 years of my entrepreneurial journey. And now that we're scaling, like really scaling a product based business, I have to figure out different ways of taking care of myself and what taking care of myself looks like now that I'm this kind of entrepreneur, right? So, but yeah, I think for me, it all comes back to always honoring myself, always having my own back, listening to my intuition, and making sure that as busy as things do get, that I'm taking care of myself and I'm, eating the lunches that I need to eat. I'm taking the breaks, I'm going for walks, and just making sure that I'm sustained in this experience.
I love it. What a great reminder. What do you read or listen to for your own development?
Ooh, that's a great question. I used to be like a self-help personal development junkie. Like I would read all the books, I would just consume them like a candy bar. But today I really feel like I'm a student of life. Like I'm out in the world, I'm learning on the ground every day. I'm, meeting with retailers, meeting with partners, meeting with mentors, learning as much as I can from people sort of has really become my thing these days. But in terms of what I'm learning regarding podcasts and books, I'm currently listening to Confessions of a Female Founder, which is hosted by Meghan Markle. And she had a really interesting conversation with the woman who started the company called Figs. It's like a modern scrub company, like scrubs for doctors and nurses. And I've absolutely loved that conversation and how she really started as like an old school entrepreneur, knocking on doors, building her business from the ground up. So that's a podcast I'm really loving today.
Beautiful. Okay, so one last question. What's one wish for a better world when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Wow. Ooh, as you say that, I have tears that come to my eyes and chills on my arm because I really believe that entrepreneurship is one of the greatest ways in which we can not only heal ourselves, but actually heal the world. Like when we do what we love, we come alive and we serve the world in the most incredible ways. And I really believe it's actually entrepreneurs and small businesses that are going to change the world. It's not these massive corporations because they're too rigid, to pivot and evolve and do more good most times, I should say. But it's the entrepreneurs creating these things from the ground up and wanting to do good in the world that I think are going to have the most impact.
Oh, I have goosebumps too. And I feel just from all my years as an organizational psychologist and seeing a lot of different organizations, all shapes, all sizes, public, private, every industry you can imagine, Canada, US, global. But one thing's for sure, the bigger you get as an organization, the more likely you are to be solely brain led versus heart led. And what can happen is when it's all in the brain, you lose your sense of empathy, your sense of meaning, your sense of kindness, respect. And so toxic leadership can more easily breed in the larger organizations. And that's a problem. However, it can still breed in the smaller ones. We know that for a fact. But the larger ones, you're right. There's all these layers to hide in. There's all these like little closets and cavities where bad behavior can hide, and then the money flows and people can get away with coasting and stuff. You can't get away with that as an entrepreneur. And if you do, you're out of business.
Well said.
But yeah, the world needs a lot of healing, and I think it's people like you, Jana, and Brad, and myself and my team, and so many others who really want to make an impact and do so in whatever ways we can with intentionality and creativity. And thanks for doing what you're doing in the world, Jana.
Thank you so much. And it is so possible. Like sometimes we see entrepreneurship as this huge mountain to climb and it's so hard. But if you look at each day, like who can you support? Can you support one person this day, right? Can you support one person this month? Like it doesn't have to be this business that's doing $100 million a year, right? Like we can all have impact in these really special and meaningful ways. And it is possible for all of us to have the impact that we want.
And we need all shapes and sizes, just like nature. We need everything from the smallest microorganism, the healthy ones, all the way to the giant structures and mountains and oceans. And we need everything in between, all these different shapes and sizes. And that's like business, right? We need the small one person with one idea all the way to the bigger enterprises. But we want those bigger enterprises to still be in touch with their heart.
Yeah, so well said. I love that. That head-heart integration is so important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jana.
It was amazing. I love this conversation. It was awesome.
Me too. I hope you stay well. Thank you for tuning in to Where Work Meets Life. If you found this content valuable, please rate, review, and share with others who may benefit. If you're struggling in your work life and need support, I offer coaching sessions. You can book a complimentary consult on my website. I'm also a passionate keynote speaker and would love to discuss your professional speaking needs. Visit my website, drlaura.live, to sign up for my monthly e-newsletter filled with tips and resources to help you stay well.